Claire, hello. Elbows up. That's like the new
Elbows
hello,
up.
right?
I know. Thank you so much for having me, Mo. It's fun.
Absolutely. So I got to ask you, are Canadians doing their national duty and not traveling to the United States as so many people are advocating for?
Oh boy, it has been so interesting to watch. So back in January, around the time of the inauguration, around January 20th, there was a poll that came out. It was done by Narrative. They conducted it, and 29% of Canadians said, elbows up, I'm not going to travel to the U.S. Now, just about a week ago, the latest poll came out, and it's 70% of Canadians are saying elbows up.
Wow.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So a lot of Canadians, when things started to turn in early February and Donald Trump was taking punches at Canadians, people had their travel on the books already. Many had already made their final payment, which means it's non-refundable.
You're pot committed.
You're committed. And so we're also practical people. So people ended up taking their vacations, many of them, which were over spring break in March.
Claire actually makes a really good point here. The numbers for February and March might look strong at first glance, but they don't really reflect how Canadians are feeling right now about traveling to the US. And there's a good reason for that. A lot of Canadians booked their vacations months ago, way before Trump even got back into office. Many of those flights and hotel packages were non-refundable. So people basically had no choice but to go, even if they had second thoughts afterward. I can tell you personally, I have friends who booked trips to the US last October. They weren't about to throw away thousands of dollars they had already spent. But every single one of them told me, once this trip is over, that's it. No more US vacations. We're going to Europe or Asia. So keep that in mind when you hear those early 2025 numbers. They don't tell the full story. All right, let's keep watching.
And so right now we're starting to see things slow down a little bit. And in March, the numbers were down, depending on which U.S. city you were going into, 10, maybe 20%. I think that's the tip of the iceberg. I think people have made decisions now based on this, whether it's the political leadership, the tariffs, the Canadian dollar being so weak against the US dollar. They are now literally saying, for the first time in 32 years of me being in this business, I'll go anywhere but the US.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll go anywhere but the US. That's a strong statement. For so long, it was just easy and convenient for Canadians to pop down south. Quick, simple, familiar. But now, people are packing their bags and choosing Mexico, South America, Europe, Asia, even Australia instead. Yeah, it might be a longer flight, but at least you don't have to worry about what's waiting for you when you land. That peace of mind? Totally worth it. Also, why would we want to spend our money in a country that doesn't respect Canada as an independent sovereign country? Let's keep going.
And even drilling down so far as to say, okay, I love my hotspot. You know, it gets cold here.
Sure.
We live in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And it gets rainy. And so between November and, say, the end of April, us Canadians love our sun getaways.
Absolutely.
And there's a huge demand for places that are not the U.S. Mexican all-inclusives. In fact, I've seen the prices go up and up and up. Lots of demand for that destination. But Caribbean islands, you know, some like to go to the Caribbean and they go over Toronto and then down to the Caribbean because it's not easy to get to. And people are choosing any island other than the U.S. owned. So they're looking for Dutch, British, French, or independent nations.
Now, aside from just the general sentiment towards the United States, or at least the government of the United States, right, is there a fear about the travel advisories? Because the Canadian government has put out certain travel advisories. We've heard certain horror stories. Are we seeing this systemically throughout the United States where you do get hassled as a tourist?
So I think that the stories that are out there have really frightened people. The reality of it is that the vast majority of people don't need to be nervous. I mean, if you're choosing to go to the US, probably don't have anything to worry about. The only real change is if you are driving across the border and you are staying for longer than 30 days. As of April 11th, you need to register. It's going to be a very simple online form that you're going to, but that's not a process that most, say, snowbirds who maybe drive down to Palm Springs or, you know, somewhere in Arizona are used to doing, that they will have to. Luckily, this change happened at a time when a lot of Canadian snowbirds were heading home, which meant they only had to deal with the Canadian government coming across the border. But if they choose to do it, which I know a lot of snowbirds aren't choosing to do for their fall getaway, they're looking to places like the south of France or the south of Portugal or Spain or Italy instead of going down south. And some of them have been going down for decades.
This is interesting. Claire says people are now prioritizing bucket list trips instead of just popping over the border for shopping or short vacations, choosing other destinations in Europe instead of the regular US trip. That's a total mindset shift. If we're going to spend the money, we want the experience to be worth it, culturally, emotionally, and yes, politically. Supporting countries and places that respect us makes a difference.
Now, really quickly, we have about a minute here.
Yeah.
Let's say you're one of those Canadians who's going to buck the trend. You do still want to go to the States. Are there deals to be had because of this lower demand?
No question. So all of the major airports, Air Canada, WestJet, Airline, Air Canada, WestJet, Porter, and Flair have all decreased their capacity to the U.S. It's not that they're not going to the destinations. They're just going less frequently or trading out the aircraft and going in smaller birds.
Rebalancing supply and demand.
Yeah. And so many of those, when they first made the changes, were going to hot spots. But at the end of April, a lot of those planes start to go to Europe, or they do domestic flights. So we might start to see some cheaper prices. Still expensive to go across the country. We know that. But the prices should come down. For the flights that are still going to the U.S., I think we're going to have a bit of a price war. And I think that it's going to be interesting because I know when the situation, remember in the US when there was, in Vegas, there was the shootings.
Right, yeah.
People got over their fear because of the price drop so low. Will they get over their anger?
It's tempting.
I don't know.
It's tempting.
All I can say is almost up, right?
Claire, a pleasure to have you on the show tonight. Thanks so much for your time.
Claire actually brought up a really good point. Yes, there are still flights heading to popular US destinations. And yeah, prices are starting to drop. Airlines are practically begging Canadians to come back. But here's the real question. Will cheap flight deals be enough to make Canadians forget how we've been treated? For me personally, the flight could be free, and I still wouldn't go. It's not about the money. It's about respect and credit where it's due. Claire deserves a lot of respect for calling it out honestly. She's not sugarcoating it. There's a much bigger story behind these numbers. It's about Canadians standing up for ourselves. It's about sovereignty, dignity, and choosing to spend our hard-earned money in places that actually value us as travelers and as people. If you're one of the many Canadians rethinking your travel plans, trust me, you are not alone. Drop us a comment below and tell us, where are you heading instead? I'd love to hear where you're planning your next adventure. And if you're proud to stand up for Canada, smash that like button, subscribe, and stick around. We've got a lot more to talk about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.